The Haunted Road, Escape from the Thing in the Dark. After a crazy party at a friend's house, I was walking my girlfriend home alone at night on a deserted country road, chatting and making jokes like good couples do. This truly occurred to my friend's uncle's flatmate. I swear, Chloe gives me a doubtful glance and raises one eyebrow. Intelligently gets up, but she's still grinning. She laughs and says, "Christ Thompson, you are full of crap." I swear to God, this is a true tale. The radio abruptly announced that a murderer had escaped from a local asylum while the man and his girlfriend were making love in their car on an abandoned country road. Since she was so easily frightened, I knew my story must be frightening her at least a little. Chris, all asylums had been closed or abandoned by the end of the 1960s. I ignored her and continued, lowering my voice to make it sound eerie and even a little demonic to heighten the dramatic tone. The offender had a knife and a hook in place of his left hand, according to the announcement. The boy wanted to stay with them, but the girl urged that they go home after she heard an odd scratching noise on her side of the car door, so the boy took off. I thought the story fit the mood perfectly considering how alone we were on the road, and Chloe started to shiver in surprise when I noticed that there was a hook attached to the girl's side of the car door when they got home. Damn, how did you know that everyone had heard that old urban legend, Chris? You're going to have to try harder than that if you really want to scare me personally. As a blast of wind ripped through the trees, the frigid winter air as I often did when I noticed her distress, I quickly removed my coat and handed it to her. However, she declined and continued walking, saying, "You can't tell me that didn't scare you a little bit." She hesitated for a second before responding, "No way. Chris, your pitiful horror stories aren't enough to frighten me." Although I knew she was lying, I chose not to confront her. Instead, I reached absently into my pocket and felt for the cool metal of my lighter. I took it out along with a cigarette from my special case and lit up in the near darkness, which was barely illuminated by the street lights. I liked the way the flame glowed against Chloe's copper hair. Although my friends didn't think much of Chloe, I thought she was always ideal, possessing just the right amount of wisdom and intelligence to balance out her small curves. We had been dating since our sophomore year and had remained together ever since. She wanted to become a doctor and I wanted to be a lawyer, so we planned to attend the same university. She notices what I'm doing and playfully slaps my arm. I know she detests my smoking, which I've been trying to quit lately with her help, of course, Chris. "I'm not going to kiss you goodnight if you have terrible breath," she giggles in mock horror. I yank the cigarette from between my teeth and stamp it out on the concrete. "Will you kiss me now?" I asked playfully. "Of course," she whispers and brings me into a loving embrace, pressing her lips against mine. That's when we both hear it at the same time, the subtle scrape of feet against the mortar of the road. Chloe breaks away from my hold and grasps my arm tightly, cutting off circulation in mere seconds. My blood freezes as I see the outline of a figure approaching us in the dark from about a few feet ahead in the road. I cast the protective arm around Chloe and back up slowly. She surreptitiously reaching in her bag where I know she keeps a canister of pepper spray in case of emergencies. We say not a word, too frightened to speak as someone or something shuffles closer. My jaw quivery, I open my mouth and force out the words, "Hello, who is that?" We're met with only silence as the figure moves closer. He appears to have some sort of injury to his leg. His steps are misshapen. Although I can't see, I can hear his movements in the dark. One leg moves forward steadily and the other is dragged up to meet its partner. That's when the smell hit me, the horrible stench of what can only be described as rotten death. As the foul smell enters my nostrils and rises in my throat, I feel sick to my stomach. The monster that had been in the darkness until now steps beneath a street lamp and is surrounded by white light as Chloe gags violently. I start to scream out in response to Chloe's deafening scream of terror, but all I manage to produce is a faint croak. I can only look on in complete horror at the thing that was standing not 10 feet in front of me. It looked to be a male, and half of its face had been torn off. The flesh that hung from its profile dripped a greenish-red liquid that I could only assume was a mixture of blood and oozing pus. One of its skulls was visible, and it gleamed beneath its teeth, sneering at me with a hideous and unearthly smile. Its clothes, which seemed to be a white shirt and shorts, were tattered horribly, as if some great beast had attempted to eat him but eventually spit him out as he took another step forward. The half of its face that was not torn from its head was covered in thick layers of gore, rendering the person or thing that committed this atrocity unrecognizable. I was so disgusted to see that his leg was broken, bent at an awkward angle near the knee, and I could see the bone sticking out through the skin. I grabbed Chloe and pulled her backwards, grabbing her purse and searching inside until I had the pepper spray in my hands. It reached out with its rotting arms, fingers quivering, and made a terrible moan that gushed from its mouth, no, its jaw, as if it were trying to communicate with my legs weak with fear. I held the pepper spray in front of us, pushing Chloe behind me. I yelled at it loudly, trying to sound brave, but it didn't work. He just kept hobbling closer and closer to us, and I was backing up. He kept groaning inarticulately more frantically, and he began to approach us faster. I lifted the pepper spray and stepped in close, pressing my thumb down as firmly as I could on the nozzle to send a jet of liquid pain straight into the monster's eyes. The pepper spray had no effect. The creature continued to saunter forward while its arms were outstretched and it was babbling unintelligible words until I could make out one word. I sprang forward swiftly and pushed the thing backwards with both palms hard. It attempted to grab me as it went down, but I jerked my hands back as if I touched it. Chloe, the deepest and most severe kind of fear rose in my chest, expanding inside me like a balloon. It somehow knows who we are, Jesus Christ. I screamed and grabbed Chloe's arm as tightly as I could, running around and past that vile creature that was now howling inhumanely and trying to stand up. Its skin felt spongy and raw, and underneath that torn shirt, it fell backwards and landed on the pavement with a sickening schlock run. I was still running when the truck struck me. I was staring backwards to try to spot the beast in the darkness, and Chloe spotted it coming. I had this strange feeling that it would give chase in the late hours, but then everything became terribly bright. When I turned around, I saw a white car rushing around a sharp bend in the road front of me. It was too late and too dark for them to see me because Chloe had released my arm and Dove had moved aside while yelling my name. The brake screamed, but not before I was struck by the front bumper and fell beneath the tires. The last thing I remember before everything went black was Chloe kneeling over my body, tears streaming down her cheeks as she tried to apply pressure with shaking hands everywhere. I was bleeding on my torso. When I woke up, I was lying in the middle of the road alone. Everything was numb, nothing hurt, and the pain that I'd endured what seemed like seconds before was gone. Agony as I'd never known it before rolled over me like a tidal wave. My face was completely lacerated by the front tires, and I let out an unearthly wail as I felt my leg break. Something was seriously wrong here. Where the hell was Chloe? Everything seemed so empty and lonely without her by my side, and I needed her. I decided I would have to try to stand up, but to my surprise, there was no sudden burst of pain that sent me reeling back to the ground. Instead, my entire body felt a size, and even though it felt weird, I managed to do it without much difficulty. I looked down at the road in confusion, seeing no tire marks, no blood, and no indication of the accidents what might have occurred in this situation. I stumbled ahead. I knew that I would have to go to a hospital, where everything would be explained to me. I headed towards the party that Chloe and I had left, which was undoubtedly still going strong, and I could call an ambulance once I arrived. I expected the walking to be tough and painful, just like I had anticipated the challenge of getting up. But again, everything was as easy as possible except for having to drag my broken leg around. I had gone about 100 yards when I heard voices ahead, so I walked more quickly so they could help me or call the ambulance that I sorely needed. As I approached them, I could start to understand what they were saying. "Chris, I'm not going to kiss you goodnight if you have terrible breath." I froze. I knew that voice all too well. It belongs to Chloe. There was a momentary pause in which I heard the scratch against the pavement that indicated a cigarette had just been stamped out by someone's shoe. "Will you kiss me now?" My voice, that was my voice. She was talking to me in some sort of twisted paradox. What the hell was going on? I only barely caught Chloe's whisper through the wind. Of course, it all became clear to me. Devastatingly clear. I had to tell them about my own imminent death before it was too late. I shuffled forwards, quickly opening my mouth and filling it with the cool air, preparing to say what I had to Chloe and I were undoubtedly backing up now, reaching for that canister of pepper spray as they heard my footsteps emanating from the dark. Then there came my own voice. "Hello, who is that? I keep going forward. Once I see myself, I'll be recognized." I thought to myself. I was very much mistaken. As I move into the light of the street lamp with horror, Chloe screams. I try to form the words to explain what was happening, but all that comes out is a mess of distorted gurgling sounds from deep within my throat. When the truck ran me over, I can tell he's scared by the way he shakes his arm, but the other me whips out the pepper spray and holds it out in front of him menacingly. I kept trying to talk, but all I could manage to say to the other me was, "Don't come any closer, don't move, stop where you are." As I kept moving forward, he approached and sprayed me with pepper spray, which obviously had no effect on my terrified features. When I see the unmistakable terror in my own eyes, the opposing doppelganger suddenly moves forward, pushing me down onto the concrete. My already broken leg lands in a delicate position as he takes off running, dragging Chloe close behind him. I keep trying to talk to him more aggressively this time, pleading with him to understand that I have a life with Chloe and that I should not waste it here. I try to get up to follow, but my leg is hurt, so it's all for nothing. I give free release to a roar of agony that reverberates throughout the region since it's beyond repair, and I can't try to warn him any longer. Ultimately, all I can do is listen to the distant squeal of the brakes before everything goes dark.